I turned to God and said, God, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to die. I'll turn to you and try to figure this out with you. Welcome back into Fit for Glory. Today's episode, I wanted to share my testimony. It's something that we all go through in our faith, right? And our journey with Christ is sharing our testimony. We're called upon doing just that thing, and it helps others to at least see what's happened with us and what's kind of led us to Christ. So that's what I wanted to do today, to give you a little bit of an insight to me, to my life a little bit, the background, and kind of where I came from with this whole faith, thing, how the podcast got started, how I got into sharing content with faith in Christ and all that, and just kind of give you a little bit of an insight and see if anybody can relate in some way. I feel like my story is a little different, so to speak, in a way, but it's something that I'm sure in some way people can relate to. Just like in the Bible, we can't necessarily relate to the exact story in certain characters in the Bible, but we can relate to the overall theme of it, or the overall the overall meaning behind the story. So the way it started for me, the way I came to know Christ, or at least start to entertain the thought of knowing him, is I almost died. Or in my brain, I thought I was dying. Like, I got to the point where I turned to God and said, God, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to die. I'll turn to you and try to figure this out with you. Because I literally thought in that moment that I was dying. I literally thought that I was about to die, that any moment God was taking me away from this earth. And in that moment, I realized I didn't know him. I had heard about him, obviously. I had some friends, like their family members were in the church, and they would spread some information from time to time. They would plant that mustard seed from time to time. But I didn't know God. I didn't have a relationship with God. Prior to all of that, I was the whole see to believe person. Well, if you show me that God is real, then I'll believe that he's real. As I've gone through time now, I realize that you just believe and then you see. That is how God works, is God will reveal things to you once you believe in him without having to see it. But in this instance, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, give you a little bit of a background to me a little bit and what led up to this night. In one of my previous episodes that I'll link to, you can hear a little bit about anxiety and things like that, and that'll kind of break some of that down. But I lived my whole life with anxiety. And then I out of nowhere, I developed this random, nasty, debilitating migraine problem in my late 20s, mid to late 20s. And I mean, I had days where I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't function at all. And for about a year or two, almost half the week, I just really couldn't live life. I was bedridden or just stuck on my couch. And it was a struggle to get up and go to the bathroom or just try to eat something was a struggle these days. And if you've ever had migraines, you know how bad they can get. And mine, they were just the worst of the worst, and we couldn't figure anything out. I was going through doctor after doctor, medicine after medicine, and I hate medicine, but sometimes you need it. Unfortunately, you do it. And we just couldn't figure it out. Nobody could figure out where they came from, why I was getting them, or better yet, how to really fix them. And all of this led to a stroke when I was 30. And it was a freak thing. It's like a 1% chance of getting a stroke from migraines. But then the crazy thing for me was it was also another 1%. So it basically became a 1% of a 1% chance for what I had, because I also had no signs of a stroke. I had the symptoms of a stroke, but no blood clot, no blood clot burst, no hemorrhage. Nothing that would typically say, hey, we did this test, you had a stroke, besides the symptoms. So finally, over 24 hours later in the hospital is when they did the special MRI test, and then they found that I had multiple spots. I had 4 different spots on my brain, and I had a stroke. So I had a TIA, which is the pre-stroke, and then I had a stroke itself. I had full numbness for a little while in one side of my body when this was all going on and everything like that. And I didn't know it at the time. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. So it basically turned out to be a 1% of a 1% chance of the stroke that I had. So now, fast forward through life, a couple of years go by. I go through PT. I had to learn how to stand up straight again, how to just work on my balance, my regular balance, learn how to walk straight again and all of that. I basically walked with a wobble and couldn't stand up straight for a while, and everything. It was crazy because, I mean, going into this, I was an athlete. I was a very high performing athlete at a high level. I mean, at this point in my life back then, I was playing, game sports 4 or 5 times a week, depending on the week. I was in the gym 5-6 days a week. I was extremely active and I ate pretty well. I mean, I'm a trainer. If you know anything that you've listened to so far, I'm a personal trainer. I've been into fitness for a very long time. I've been an athlete my whole life. So I was very active and very quote unquote healthy. It was just a freak thing that came out of nowhere. But what happened here is it disrupted my sleep even more. Obviously, then I was in pain and discomfort, and I had major anxiety. I was in a massive depressive episode for this point now because my life was completely uplifted and uprooted and changed. So what happened was marijuana became legal in Massachusetts throughout that time. And I had smoked weed like growing up and stuff like that on and off. And not growing up like when I was little, like when I was an adult. I should preface that a little bit, but it sometimes like was just a recreational thing for the most part growing up. But then as it became legal, I was like, you know what, let me try it because people talk about it for pain and sleep and this and that. So I had dabbled in it a little bit and it had helped sometimes with the migraines. So going through all of this, I was like, hey, you know what, like let me get my medical license for it now because it's legal and I can do it that way. It'll help me sleep, it'll help the pain, XYZ. And it did for a while. It definitely served its purpose. It definitely helped me on nights where I needed to sleep and I couldn't. And it helped me sometimes and helped me to relax and it helped ease me and it helped my anxiety. It helped my depression. It helped all of these things. And it was wonderful. But then all of a sudden, like kind of out of nowhere, maybe I was relying on it too much or I don't know what it was. I mean, we'll get into what it was, what I believe it was. But it stopped helping. It didn't work anymore. It wasn't as helpful. And then in fact, it would actually have the flip side of it and it would give me more anxiety. It would make me feel worse. And then it was triggering the PTSD that I had from the stroke. So then it would give me the tingles in my body. And then that would that would trigger the PTSD with the stroke because then it reminds me of the numbness of the stroke. So now I'm getting more anxiety. Now I think I'm having a stroke. Now I'm freaking out. And it would just kind of be like a snowball effect here. So what I ended up doing was I would stop and then I would try it again and then I would stop and go back and forth, you know, a month or two off or whatever it was, a few weeks off and try it again. I'd have a good day with it, then I'd have a bad day with it. And it got to the point where I barely used it anymore. And then one night came along and I was like, nah, I really feel like crap. Let me try it. And I smoked. And not only did I have an anxiety attack, but I went into a full blown panic attack to the point where my heart was racing. It was at like, I think when I checked it was like 180 something beats per minute. That's me doing like a full blown crazy workout type of heart rate. And it was just going and my head is pounding and my heart is racing. And I literally got to the point where I couldn't calm down and I thought I was dying. That's what a panic attack, sometimes you think you're dying if you've ever had one. And I didn't know what to do and I'm freaking out and nothing's helping. And I was at home and, you know, I just didn't know what to do. And I literally thought I was about to die. Like, I think I was just so high in the panic attack that I was doing it myself, but I felt like I was lifting up. Like, I could feel my feet coming off the floor. Again, I think that was just me, like going on my tippy toes, but it was still something. And I literally just stopped. And in this moment of my life, you know, to kind of give you a little bit of background here real quick, is I felt lost in my life. Like, I just felt like I didn't really have anything. I didn't have a work thing going for me. I didn't really have the best of like friendships going for me. I just felt like I had nothing in a sense. Like, I had stuff, obviously. I had family. I had all that. But like, I just felt lost. I felt like I needed something to guide me in a sense through life. I didn't know what, because again, I wasn't a believer, but I didn't feel right. I didn't feel set in my way. So now back to what's going on in this panic attack. I'm freaking out. I think I'm dying. Literally feel like I'm about to die any second. And something just came over me and it was God, but he basically said, hey, turn to me. Give this to me. Basically what he said. Not in those exact words, but if you are a believer, you kind of understand, like, you just get this kind of inner monologue, this talk going on with you, this feeling, something just comes over you and it's bigger than you. And in that moment, I looked up and I said, God, help me. I said, God, if you can help me through this, I'm not ready to die. I don't want to go. I want my life to turn around. I want it to be better. Now, my life wasn't bad. I wasn't doing anything quote unquote bad or anything like that. So please don't think that. But just in the general sense, like, it needed to be better. So I said, God, you know, spare my life, basically. Like, let me turn to you. Let me try this faith thing out, basically, is just what I said. And then it came over me and said, hey, go wake up. This is like 3 a.m. So he came over me and said, calm down. Go talk to your mother. Just, you know, relax. give her a hug. I'm not a, like, I don't know. I'm not a hugger. I'm not a family person. I'm not like, I'm close with my parents, but not like, not in a sense. I don't really know how to describe that here. But he was like, hey, you need a hug. He's like, get your mother up, like, tell her what's going on, tell her what you feel, give her a hug. And then I started to calm down and we chatted for a little while, and it was just, a beautiful moment. And I relaxed. And as time went on, I started to calm down more, and I went to bed and just kind of watched some TV and just chilled out and relaxed. And then, the next day I was like, hey, this kind of something happened. So let me go with it. Let me look into what I do. Let me go buy a Bible and figure out what I do in this faith walk. 'Cause I had no clue. Like, I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what to do. I just knew, get a Bible and start reading it. So I looked online. I was like, how do you start reading the Bible? And there was a few different things. And one of them said, like, here's a daily like calendar, basically, like, go Old Testament chapter here, New Testament chapter here, and just read each one every day, and then just go through the year starting whatever day you're at and go through it. That's what I did. I got a Bible. I started reading it along with this calendar, and then I just started reading it throughout the day. And I was like, okay, like, let's see what happens. So I started doing that. I would look into some like podcast and messages that were online, and just started taking in the word. It's really that simple. Like, you don't have to have some magical thing. You don't have to have some specific timeline. Yes, certain things, like in my case, it's going to come up and it's going to bring you to him in some way, but it's just a matter of starting, just like anything in life. I mean, if I tie this to my personal trainer career side, you just start. Just start going to the gym. Just start eating better, whatever it is. It's the same thing with your faith. Just start. Just get into it and start, and you'll figure out the way, because God's going to lead you through it. So as time went on, I knew of a church that was local, because one of my friends, her mom had been there forever, and she would talk about it, and I knew this, and I said, okay, well, that's a Christian church. That's a start. I was going in the Christian side of things. So I said, okay, let me look it up. And they had it online. They had online services, because I wasn't quite ready to go in person yet. I felt awkward, and I just didn't, like, again, that's the anxiety. That's the devil also trying to trick me. But I relied on God, and he overtook, that journey. And he said, hey, look, the church goes online. Sit on your couch and watch online. Feel it out. See what it looks like. See what it sounds like. See what it feels like. And then go from there. So the next week, I tuned in on a Sunday, and I wasn't a big fan of the worship music to open up the service. Like, the production, it was not, like, it didn't sound that great. The sound was off a little bit. Like, it wasn't matching. The, like, lead singer guitar person wasn't synced up with the, like, worship team. So it just really threw me off, because I have weird OCD with some things. And, like, sound and voice and all of that, it'll throw me off. I was like, wow, this is awful. Like, I'll be blunt here. I'm gonna be completely honest. I sat there and said, this is freaking awful. I don't want to watch. I don't want to do this. Like, this is awful. I don't like. But God said, just stick it out. Even if you don't like this isn't the biggest part of it. Wait till you hear the message, and let's see what the message has, and see what it feels like then. Okay, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust you, God. I'm going to stick through it. So I sat there, I watched it came through, blah, blah, blah. I went to the prayer, then it got to the message. And a few minutes into the message, I forgot exactly what it was, but that topic he was going back and forth on, and he was talking about things, the pastor. And I was like, wow, what is he talking to me? Like, it literally felt like the Pastor Dave, was saying, hey, Nick, blah, blah, blah. By the way, Nick, blah, blah, blah. And he would go on. And I was like, this is weird. Like, nobody knows I'm doing this besides God. God was the only one that knew I was doing it. Nobody knew that besides me and God. The pastor didn't know that I was listening. The pastor didn't know what I needed, but God did. And that's how incredible he is. That's how divine he is. And I'm listening to this message, and I'm getting a lot from it. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, how is this happening right now? It's because I started to believe without seeing. Contrary to what I always lived life was like, well, no, there's not a God, because I can't see him. I don't hear him. I don't feel him. But then that moment that God used, that panic attack moment where he said, you're going to believe, and I believed, and then he showed me. That's what happened. So now I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the message, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. This is awesome, but it's crazy because this message is speaking to me. Okay, cool. So I started going to church the next week. I started going because I knew some of them, I knew a couple of the people there. So she introduced me. I sat with them, so I didn't really feel like I was alone. And I just started on my journey in faith. And it's a lot of ups and downs. Trust me, you're not going to get it right. You're not going to be perfect in it. And God doesn't expect that. God knows you're going to mess up, because I'm I am in and out. I'm back and forth. I have my moments where I'm really close with God, and I have my moments where I'm really far away from God. But I keep trying. And I said this on episode 1. Part of the reason I'm sharing these messages and I'm sharing my truth and God's truth ultimately, and my journey through it all, is that it helps me grow closer to God. And I feel blessed because God has called me to do this. Even if one person listens to it but gets one little thing out of it, it's a blessing because God gets to use me. God is using me for a bigger purpose. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my time, is like having a bigger purpose behind things and letting God work through you. And something that I'm mindful of as much as I can be here is, I'll get comments on some of the shorts that I share or something like that. And I don't want to take the glory for it because it's not me, it's God. God is simply using me as a beacon of light in some way. I'm just basically a tool that God is using in this journey of life for all of us. So me sharing messages and all of that, it's God using me. So I don't want to take the glory for that. And naturally, in our fleshly way, someone says something to us or compliments us or whatever, and naturally we say thank you and we kind of take the credit for it. Whether it's like on purpose or not, we take the credit for it. But it's God. God gets the credit for everything. The reason I'm here is because of God. Like in general, in the world, I was born because of God. The reason I'm here now doing this is because of God. The reason I found, salvation, because of God. The reason I got through everything, the reason I got through the stroke, the reason I got through the panic attacks, the reason I got through the anxiety, the depression, all of it was God. So how can I take the glory for something? It's not me sharing these messages in a sense. Like, yes, it's me in the body, in the flesh, but it's God using me to share these things, and he deserves the glory. And one thing that I do that I've learned that's really helpful is I have a list of topics that I want to speak on and share on for, podcasts and little short messages and short videos and things like that. But when it comes to a podcast episode every week that I record these, I go to God first. And that's something I need to do more in every area of my life. And we should all try to be that way. But something I try to do is, like today, for instance, as an example, I had a couple things in my list, right? And I said, okay, which one do I want to record on today? Which one do I want to speak on? And they're all true. They're all from me, well, from God, but they're all, part of me, part of my life, part of my journey, my thought process, all of that. But I want them to be as authentic and best as possible, best delivered as possible. Not saying that they wouldn't be no matter what, but in that particular moment, if I'm not exactly feeling that way or whatever it is that I made the note of, it might not be 100%. Best way I can kind of describe it. So what I do is I pray on it. Before I ever press record, I turn to God and say, God, lead me through this message, whatever it's going to be. But God, first and foremost, what do you want me to speak on today? What do you want me to record right now? And I was going through the list and I was like, I don't really know. Like nothing's really speaking to me right now to really talk about. And God said, it's time to share your testimony. Maybe somebody's going to take something from this or whatever it is. But God said, it's time to share your testimony. Put a little bit of your story out there. Put how you found me out there. That is what I want you to record today. So here I am, and I'm recording some of my testimony. So if you can relate to this in some way, it might not be exactly, you might not have smoked weed, had a panic attack, and then found God. But maybe you had a panic attack and found God. Maybe you had a health attack and you found God. Maybe you were scared and found God. Maybe you're going through something like that right now and not sure about finding God. You can get it in some way, I think, though. And if you can relate, or if you're curious about, more details about what I went through, what I did, what I felt, how I got there, what I do, whatever it is, please comment, please reach out to me, please message me, please email me. My email's there. You can come over to Instagram, which is in the description as well, NickB1524, and we can have a conversation there. Wherever you want to go. Like, I'm not perfect in this. I don't know all the information. I don't know all the scriptures. I don't know all these things, but I'll have a conversation with you. That's what God wants, is conversation. So if you need something in some way, you want to reach out in some way, you want to have fellowship in some way, comment, obviously like and, subscribe to the channel, follow the page, whatever it is, wherever you're listening to this. But just start a conversation with me and we can talk about it. I'll share even more of this. But that's the basis of my journey, the basis of my testimony. And then I was in the church for about a year, got baptized. That was, scary because my anxiety, the devil didn't want me to do it, but I trusted God and I went through it and it was a beautiful experience. So that is the last thing I'm going to leave you with here, is that when you're on your journey with Christ, you will have tests on all sides of things. The devil will constantly try to play you like a fool and try to trick you and pull you away. But you need to fight back and you need to trust in Christ. Put Christ first. Put your trust in him. Put your strength in him. Put the armor of God on, and he will get you through it all. I promise you. I've had test after test, and sometimes I fail, but God comes back because that's the grace and the mercy that he has for us, and he welcomes you back in and gets you through it every single time. But the devil will definitely try to trick you. I almost backed out of being baptized because the devil wanted me to, but God prevailed because I turned to God. I didn't want to share messages. The devil was trying to say, you're not good enough to record. You're not good enough to make content. I trusted in God and got through it. The devil X, Y, Z, the devil this, the devil that. Sometimes he wins, but then I turn around at some point in time and said, no, why am I letting him win? He's an idiot. He doesn't win. Like, he shouldn't get to win. He's never going to win with God. He doesn't win in the Bible. So why am I going to let him win with my life? And then I turn around and I get back to God. It's a constant ebb and flow. It's a constant battle. We are constantly at spiritual war, 24/7, 365. But turning to God is the way. And I'm so thankful that I learned this. I am so grateful for everything God has done for me, does for me now, will do for me in the future. And more importantly, the things that I don't even know, the things that I don't know that he's doing, the things that I don't know that he's done. That's more important because that's just behind the scenes that you never even know about until the day you get there. And I bet you when we get to heaven, maybe not that he's like, oh, look what I did for you, but maybe you get to learn like all of the beautiful, wonderful ways that God has worked in your life. And you get to see all these things and you're like, wow, I never knew you did all of this for me. Like, I never knew you cared. Like, I didn't know before I even like knew you, all of the wonderful ways you cared about me and loved me. I didn't know any of that. Wow. I thought I was blessed, but like, I can't even comprehend how blessed I am because of what you do for me, because of the sacrifice that your son made for me. And he never knew me, but he did that for me. And something that you can think of is like, when you get to heaven, if you don't know God, you don't have a relationship with him, and you don't have that belief in Christ, he's going to say, depart from me, child. I never knew you. But that same person died for you. He died for me without knowing me so that he could know me. Christ died for me. I'm going to repeat that. Christ died for me without ever knowing me. He died thousands of years ago. He did not know me when he died, but he did that so that I can get to know him one day, so that I can spend eternal life with him. That's love from God. That just doesn't make sense, but it does, because that's God. God doesn't make sense like he does, but like, you get me, like you will never understand all that God is and all that God does, but it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So I thank you for tuning in. And hopefully this can help in some way. And I'll catch everybody on the next one.